This afternoon, Rio Rancho police released new details on how that deadly shooting of Officer Gregg unfolded following a traffic stop.
We also got a pretty good clue as to why they believe the suspect, Andrew Romero, pulled the trigger. He knew he was facing a long prison sentence for something else, and we have team coverage this evening. We start with News 13's Chris McKee live at the scene of the shooting near Southern and 528. Chris?
Yeah, Dean and Jessica, you can see just up the street from me, there is a memorial underneath a tree here. That is exactly where this all took place. Police say it started with a routine traffic stop around 8 o'clock last night.
He had run the male passenger and had some conflicting information, and he approached the passenger at the scene of the first stop, at which point, for some reason, the vehicle took off.
Police say a female driver and a male passenger were inside. Their SUV stopped again nearby the Esterbone Library. 28-year-old Andrew Romero was in the passenger seat. Police say Romero pushed the woman out of the way and fired at least 3 times at Benner as he approached her window. Benner died at UNMH. The driver stayed, but Romero drove off. Turns out Romero was wanted for a string of armed robberies over the past few months. Police found him around 4 this morning at a gas station at Rio Bravo and Broadway in the South Valley. Police say Romero robbed that gas station, but they were able to arrest him. They believe they've recovered the gun he's accused of using to kill Benner. Police say Benner didn't have time to pull his weapon before he was shot. Romero has a long, violent criminal history, but was out of jail.
We need to address this at some point in the state to make sure that these hardcore, repeat predator offenders are addressed more differently than, say, the average street robbery suspect or things like that.
Now, Romero is at the Sandoval County Jail tonight. Since the state abolished the death penalty, Romero faces life without parole if he is convicted of killing a police officer. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Chris.
And as Chris mentioned, Romero has a nasty criminal record and was a wanted man. News 13's Cole Miller went to his last known address, which is on Albuquerque's west side, where his family said he's no longer wanted. Cole?
That's right, Jessica. That home is just off of McMahon near Golf Course. We're told Romero hasn't lived here for more than 2 years or so. His grandfather kicked him out. He'd had enough of his troubles. Now, he tells us that he took Romero in as a teen after his mother passed away, saying no one wanted him. But Romero's run-ins with the law forced his grandfather to kick him out for good. He believes he lived somewhere in the South Valley for the last 2 years. He says Romero even broke into his home this last year. And his rap sheet starts back in 2005 when he was convicted of manslaughter and then spent years behind bars. After getting out in 2010, Romero spent 3 more years in jail after a shoplifting incident at a Walmart. An employee there died from a heart attack after struggling with Romero. Then, in January of last year, he was sentenced to 15 months behind bars and 5 years probation for armed robbery and felon with a firearm charges. After getting out, police say he went on another crime spree, robbing 8 stores all over Albuquerque this year. Crime Stoppers even featured him on the news just last month. And on Friday, a warrant was issued for his arrest for those armed robberies. Police believe that may be why he ran and ultimately shot at Officer Benner.
At the time of the stop, and I'm sure that's what drew Officer Benner's attention, was that he did have an outstanding warrant for probation violations, and they were valid last night.
And today, the chief did wonder why Romero wasn't given a longer sentence for that January armed robbery last year, adding he never should have been out on the streets in the first place. Now, again, Romero has not lived in this neighborhood for roughly 2 years or so. Other neighbors we spoke with say they were shocked to find out that he lived here at one point. Jessica?
All right. Thank you, Cole.
The news of Benner's murder is rocking the small Rio Rancho Police Department and the community. News 13's Candace Hopkins is live outside the Rio Rancho Police Department with how they are remembering the fallen officer. Candace?
Dean, the police chief described Officer Benner as a 49-year-old with the energy of a 21-year-old. Before he joined the department, he had 20-plus years with the Air Force. After that, he retired and started that second career with Rio Rancho Police. He had been with the department for 4 years, and the chief described him as a dedicated officer who always went after the bad guys. Benner leaves behind a wife, 5 kids, a grandson, and has more grandchildren on the way. Neighbors told us today they always felt safe when he was around. And I also spoke with a Circle K clerk who said Officer Benner and her talked every day for the past several years. She was devastated by this news.
It's a sad thing. We don't want to see anybody ever die. I know it's their job, you know, they take that risk every day, but it sure does hurt when it actually happens.
Fantastic guy, great neighbor, and he was always happy, always cool to be around. Yeah.
There's a memorial fund set up for Benner's family at Wells Fargo, and tonight there will be a candlelight vigil at 8 p.m. in Hayes Park. The community is invited. Back to you, Dean.
All right, Candace, thank you. Now, this has been a rough 8 years for a police department of about 150 officers. This is the 3rd death in the line of duty since 2007. Last year, Officer Anthony Haas was killed in a crash on a desolate road heading to a call. No one knows what caused him to roll his car. 8 years ago, Officer Jermaine Casey was killed in a crash at the Sunport when he hit a tree. Casey was serving in President Bush's motorcade during a fundraising visit by the president. Our team of reporters is working to uncover the facts about everything that happened in Rio Rancho and about Officer Benner. Make sure to download our KRQE app for the very latest updates on this story.